Okay, welcome to Chapter 1 of AP Stats. We are going to learn about some graphs in this chapter. So we're going to have a bunch of different kinds of graphs to do. And today we're going to do lesson 1.1a. We're only going to do the first 3 pages of the lesson. And we need to talk about 2 different types of variables. So we have categorical variables, which sounds just like its name. They are categories. We call them by name, or we give them a label, okay? These would be things like, for example, hair color. If I asked you, the class, I took a survey and I asked you what hair color there was, that would be a different categorical variable. Zip codes. Now, some people think, oh, well, the categorical variables can't be numbers, but zip codes are not a unit of measure. It doesn't measure something. So if I said my zip code was 90210, which is Beverly Hills, I don't live there, obviously, I'm a teacher, but that would not be measuring something. I would be in a category and I would be living in that city for that number. Now, quantitative is going to be a numerical value, and that is a unit of measure. So we're going to have something that measures something. So when I sent out that survey last week to you guys, I asked you how tall you were in inches. Okay, that's not going to be categorical. That would be quantitative because that's a measurement of how tall you are. All right, so to get those categorical and quantitative things in the right category, like figuring out which one's which, I have you going on to student.desmos.com. You're going to make sure to put your name there, and then you're going to use this code and follow the instructions for the activity. And then there's no save button, so when you just close out the website, it saves your work and I'll be able to see it. So this activity is worth 3 points. It's not a homework grade. It's like more like class participation grade. If you get most of them right, you will get a 3. If you get, some of them wrong, you'll get a 2. And if you get them really bad, you'll get a 1. So you can talk to your friends. This is not, cheating or anything, but it's going to be a sorting thing. So you could go ahead, pause this video, and do that now to kind of get used to the difference between categorical and quantitative variables. All right, so welcome back. If you did that, I hope you did. It's worth 3 points, so you're doing great. All right, so all of these activities that I put into the notes, I got from a website called StatsMedic. I used some of their stuff last year, but mostly last year it was just notes and writing, and I was even bored. So I wanted to change this year to reflect more of just getting into stats and doing it more than just writing down stuff. We're actually going to do activities. So here we go. It says, which of the following is your favorite elective class? Let's take the data from the survey. So I sent out a survey, and there are 27 AP Stats kids, and I got a response from 25, which is fine. It's not due till later this week, but I wanted to do this video today. So I went ahead and looked, and there were 25 students that told me what their favorite elective was, and 7 said art, 6 said music, 7 for PE, 2 for foreign language, and 3 for technology. Let's add that up to make sure that equals, it's 14, 20, 25. Yeah, okay. So let's identify the variables and the individuals. So the individuals that we're talking about here, the people that took the survey, were students. You could be more specific and say AP Stats students. AP Stats. You could even say AP Stats students at Valley Christian. But students is fine. Okay, that covers a wide variety of people. All right, the variable that we're talking about here is your favorite elective. So that's the variable. Now the next question is the variable, is it categorical or is it quantitative? So the favorite electives are art, music, PE, foreign language, technology. Those are definitely labels. They're categorical, not quantitative. Yeah. All right, so I'm going to teach you how to make a bar graph and a pie chart. You've probably done this, I don't know, maybe in 6th grade, 7th grade. Maybe in biology, I think you do some pie charts, which is pretty cool. But there's a really great website we can go to that will do it for us if we put the data in. And I really like it. I mean, you can do it by hand. It's easy to do these by hand too. But I just want to show you this real quick, okay? So go ahead and go to, maybe you can do a split screen on your iPad or go on a different device. But I'm going to go to the browser and I'm going to pick the website, www.staplet.com. And I'm going to pick the first one because we're talking about one categorical variable in a single group. And here we go. All right, so you can do this with me, or you can just watch, but you might have to do it later, so pay attention. So we're going to put in the variable, which is favorite electives. I'm just going to write electives. And then our category names. So the first one was art. And then the next one was music. And I'm going to hit this plus button right there to add the next one, which is PE. Oopsie, I want them capitalized. I want this to look nice. PE. And after PE was foreign language. I'll just abbreviate that with FL for foreign language. And finally, technology. All right, so art was 7. Music, 6. PE, 7. I mean, this is taking longer than it probably would just to do it by hand, huh? 2, and technology, 3. But I want to show you, like, it'll do them all for you. So hit begin analysis. And what it shows you is, it says plot type bar chart. So here's the bar chart. Now, notice what they've done. They've labeled the bottom, art, music, PE, electives. The frequency is on the side. They even give you a table here, and the table shows you the frequency and the relative frequency. The relative frequency is the percent. So 7 out of 25 is 28%. 6 out of 25 is 24%. And there's the total, 100%, okay? Now, the cool thing is that you can change your bar chart to a pie chart. So it does the pie chart, the bar chart, and then also does something called a segmented bar chart, which we're going to talk about in the next example. So there you go. And then you can just copy them down. So if I want to, can I move this out of the way for a minute? No, I have to stay here. Okay, well, we kind of know what it looks like. So if I wanted to, I could just, put it here, whatever. But you would need to just copy them down real quick. But, let's not do that. So you can see there's the bar chart, okay, and the pie chart. And that's pretty good for that. Okay, so let me move that over here. Now, a couple things I do want to say, though, about these things is frequency. Remember, frequency is the number of counts. For art, for example, for art, it was 7. So if you were going to draw your bar chart, you need to do some things here. You need to always label, okay? So you want to give the whole thing a title. I would call the entire chart favorite electives. Okay? So that's my title label. Then I need to label down here. You need to label both axes. So I would label this as art, music, PE. Okay, I'd probably write them out if I was doing it for, an AP test or something. And then you have to, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You have to label the numbers over here too. You don't have to always label all of them, but it's kind of easier to do that. And then you want to say what this is. This is frequency. It's not relative frequency, okay? Relative frequency, if you remember from the chart, was a percentage of the whole, of the entire data, okay? It's a percentage for relative frequency. So if I was going to go ahead and do the bar chart, I would go art, music was 6, PE was 7, just kind of going fast so I'm not wasting your time. 2, and then 3. So there you go, okay? My pie chart I have right here, I'm just going to leave that. All right, so that's Staplet. You don't have to use it. I just think it's kind of a cool little website. All right, is that the first page? All right, let's go to the next one. Okay, so, excuse me. Sometimes it's helpful to investigate more than one variable, so let's look at the survey results. So I have the survey results over here, and you chose your favorite elective, and then I asked you what your favorite core class was. Was it math or English? Now, most of you said math a lot. And maybe that's because your math teacher was asking you which one was your favorite, and that might be a little bit of a bias there. I'm trying to get you to say math, but I wasn't. Okay, I was actually an English major for my first year of college, so I like both. Of course, I like math better. All right, so for art, there were 4 people who liked math, and then there were 3 people who liked English. So remember, there were 7 people who chose art. 4 of them like math better, 3 of them like English better. Out of the music people, there were 6 of them. 5 chose math and 1 chose English. PE, all 7 chose math. Nobody chose English. Foreign language was 1 and 1. 2 people who chose foreign language. And then technology, remember, there were 3, and all 3 chose math. Okay, so there's our chart. And this should all add up. It's nice to kind of go across and add this way too. So 7, 6, 7, 2, 3. Those are all the numbers that we had on the other page. But then it's nice to go this way too. And so if we add these up, we get 9, 10, that's 20. And 3, 4, 5, 25. And then that makes a total of 25, okay? So now let's talk about percentages over here. And we're going to do a lot more of this when we get to the probability chapter later in the school year. What's the percentage of all students? Okay, that is going to be the denominator. Percentage of all students. How many students were surveyed or took the survey? 25. So what percent of all students chose PE? So we go to PE and there were 7. 7 out of 25. You can leave it as a fraction or a decimal or a percentage. So that was 28%. And we saw that in the relative frequencies when we did the Staplet. Now, what percent of all students, so we're still talking about 25, what percent of all students chose math and art? Okay, math and art. That would be this number right there. The people who chose math, the people who chose art, there were 4 out of 25. 4 out of 25, if you wanted to write that as a percentage, you could. It's 16%. Okay. Now, last one's a little bit trickier. Percent of the students who prefer math. So we're not talking about percent of all students anymore. We're talking about the percentage of the students who preferred math. Who preferred math? 20. 20 preferred math. Of those 20 people, how many chose technology? There were 3. 3 people chose technology out of the 20 that chose math, and that was 15%. All right, these are all called something. They're all called something different. The first one is called a marginal relative frequency. Marginal relative frequency. Okay? The next one, we take math and art, and so we join them together, and this is called a joint relative frequency because of the word and. We joined the and. And this one is percent of the students who prefer math. So this is a condition has been put on, not just all the students, but the ones that chose math. So this is called a conditional relative frequency. Okay? They're all different. Are you going to be tested on that? Probably not, but it's nice to know the names. Okay. All right, so let's look at the table. Here we go. How many variables does the table have? So this time we have 2 variables. Okay? We've got core class and we've got elective. Those are our 2 variables. Are the variables categorical or quantitative? These variables, core class and elective, they're not measuring something, they are categorical. Which variable would best explain or predict the other variable? Okay, this has to do with explanatory and response. Okay, the explanatory is going to be the core class. The core class could predict the response variable, which is your favorite elective. So you have to kind of think which one would explain the other. Would your favorite elective explain your core class, or would your core class explain your favorite elective? So the core class would explain the favorite elective. All right, we're going back to Staplet. This time we're going to make a side-by-side bar graph and a segmented bar graph, okay? And we're going to sketch them below. So we're going to have a bar graph, and then we're also going to have a segmented bar graph. And don't forget, we need to title, label, tick, tick, tick is kind of the thing I like to say sometimes. Okay, so here we go. Let's go back to the browser. And we'll go to Staplets again. This time we're going to pick 2 categorical variables. There we go. Okay, 2 categorical variables. So the explanatory variable we said was core class. Just write core. And the response was elective. And this right here is math. And column name is English. Oops, English. The row name here is art. This row name is music. I'm going to hit the plus down here to make another row name. I'm good with columns. This should feel like very matrix to you. It is. PE. Okay, add another row name, which would be foreign language. FL. And finally, technology. Tech. Okay, so the counts. Let's see. Art was 4 and 3. Music was 5 and 1. PE, 7 and 0. Foreign language, 1 and 1. And technology, 3 and 0. Okay, begin analysis. Alrighty, so let's change the chart type to a side-by-side bar. So there's a side-by-side bar. So let's talk about what the side-by-side bar is doing here. Here are the summary statistics, okay? They gave us a percentage, of the relative frequencies, and so the bar graph shows relative frequencies. It even says it on the side here on the y-axis, relative frequency. So we have for math, 20% chose art. And see how they did the colors and they gave you a key over here? They showed you what each one was. So the art is blue. Now you notice in English, it's really big. The art, the English probably explains that you like art, which I don't know if they go hand in hand, but from this graph, it seems like they do. Music is this light blue color, and that was 25% and 20% in the English. PE was over here. Nobody chose PE for English. And then same thing with technology, only in the math, okay? Now, that's a side-by-side chart. If you wanted to do a segmented bar graph, that would be the total's always 100%. And so you just stack them on top of each other. So math was 20 and music was 25. So if you add 20 and 25, that'll get you to right here, 45. And then PE was 35, so now you're just kind of adding. You add 20 plus 25 plus 35, that makes you up to 80. That was only 5%. And then technology was 15, and the total is 100. It's almost like taking a pie chart, oopsie, and making it into a rectangle out of 100%. And so this is the one for English, okay? Now, there's one more type of chart that we didn't talk about, which is Mosaic. Mosaic plot is going to show you how many more people chose math than English, and we're going to do a project, we're going to do an activity on this in the next slide. All right, so that's that. Let me get that over here. Can I change it still? Yeah. Oops, I picked the same one though. Side-by-side bar graph. There we go. I'm not very good at this, as you can see. So it's all crooked. There we go. And I would probably just like put that right there. Be like, okay, there's my segmented bar graph. Perfect. All right. So how do the bars in the side-by-side bar graph relate to the bars in the segmented bar graph? Can I like click that there? Well, basically, if you were to stack, so let me get my pen. If you stack all of the bars for math, it would look like the segmented bar graph. Okay? The proportion of them. So this, like you would have the blue, and then the next one would be bigger with the light blue. And if you didn't have colors, you could do it that way. And then you have a lot for that one. You could do maybe dots or something. Okay. So it would look like the segmented bar graph. It would look like segmented. Sorry, I know my Apple Pencil clicks. I'm trying not to, but you know, I'm new at this. All right, do you think there's an association between favorite course subject and favorite elective? Now in stats, we like to ask these questions. Now we know that you can do a bar graph, and the math part of stats is not hard. It's the interpretation, it's the writing, it's the, now I have to back it up and show and say what I mean. You know, that's the hard part in stats. So is there an association? I think so. If you look at this, I think there is. I could say that, you know, the people who chose English, so the students who chose English also like art more than any other elective. Also like art more than other electives. Okay, now you're probably thinking, wait a minute though, math had 4 for art and English had 3. So don't more people like that? Yeah, you could say that too. It's just in here, the people who chose English, a lot of them were the ones who chose art. Okay. All right, oops, and that just disappeared. Okay, let's go to the next page. We'll pretend like that. All right, here's our last activity. Now, if you need to take a break, go ahead, take a break. This is a long video, I know, but we have to get these done. Okay, now this one hits close to home. In 2018, Valley Christian Schools decided to pick a new mascot. The superintendent decided to have the students and teachers vote between 3 choices. So here were the 3 choices. Do you guys remember this? Royals, Defenders, or Thunder. And he took a random sample of students and a random sample of teachers, and the results of the survey are given in the table. Okay, so we're not going to use Staplet for this. We're going to do this by hand. We're going to create 2 bar graphs below to display the results. We're going to use 3 different colors for the bars. So here we go. All right, so the first one, see, they've labeled everything. They haven't labeled the bottom yet. Let me label this. This is going to be Royals, Defenders, and Thunder. So Royals, Defenders, and Thunder. I got cut off, I think. So let's go ahead, and for the Royals, we'll do that in blue because, you know, royal blue. 80%. So here's 80%. 80% chose the Royals. Okay, for teachers. We're just looking at the teachers right here. 10% chose Defenders. Let's do that in yellow. 10% chose Defenders. And Thunder, I'll do that in red. 10% chose Thunder. And that makes 100% of the teachers that were surveyed. For the students, 30% chose Royals. Okay. Defenders was 60. By the way, this data is in, like, this never happened. I mean, the change of the mascot did, but it was all weighted. It was like 1/3 got a vote, 1/3. It was interesting. And then the Thunder were 10%. Okay, over here, we are going to stack them. Okay, so what it says, complete the third graph by taking each bar from the teacher sample and stacking it. So let's go ahead and go back to blue, and 80% was blue for the Royals, and 10% were defenders. So if you tack on another 10, you're at 90. And then the thunder was another 10%. So now we're at a total of 100. All right, for the students were 30%. Okay, and then the defenders were 60. So where does that put us? If I add on 60 on top of the 30, I'm all the way up here at 90%. And then the red, they both shared, the thunder was only 10%. There you go. So that's called a segmented bar graph, where they're all stacked on top of each other. It's kind of like taking, this plus that and stacking it on top to make 100%. Now, according to your displays, which mascot appears to have the most support? Now, if you just look at this and you look over here, it looks like the Royals. The Royals seem to have the most support. Okay, and that's what the teachers wanted. It's not really what the teachers wanted for real, but that's what the teachers wanted there, which was interesting, okay? The bars are taller than the bars for the defenders and the thunder. But the plot twist, here we go. Now, upon hearing the results of the survey, the students argued that the decision was incorrect because 100 teachers had been surveyed and 500 students had been surveyed. So use this information to fill in the table below with the number of responses, okay? So not the percentage, but the numbers. So for the Royals, 80% of the teachers that were surveyed wanted the Royals. So what's 80% of 100? That would be 80 people. So it's kind of easy because it's percent means per 100. So if it's 80%, it's 80 per 100. The defenders, there were 10, and the thunder, there were 10. So that makes a total of 100 teachers surveyed. Now, for the students, 500 students were surveyed. Okay, so remember 30%. So if we're going to figure out Royals over here for the students, 30% of the 500. So how would you do that? You go 0.3 times 500, and that'll give you the amount of students that wanted the Royals. So that's 150. And then, what was it? 60% of 500 is 300 students wanted defenders. And then 10% of 500 is 50. So how many more times were students sampled than teachers were sampled? And that is 5 times. They were sampled 5 times as much, 100 to 500. So how can you update the third graph up here to take into account the sample size? Adjust your graph. So this is what you want to do. This represents one part. This represents one part. But they were 5 times, the students were 5 times more represented in this survey. And so what you want to do is you want to tack on 4 more of these. 4 more of those, 4 more of those. That makes all of the students that wanted Royals. And then the defenders. Tack on 1, 2, 3, 4. That's a total of 5 now. This is how many students wanted defenders. And then the thunder, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's how many. So when you look at the overall graph, it's pretty obvious what the biggest area is. It's right here, defenders, okay? Just because the teachers, the 100 that they chose, wanted Royals, it's really the defenders that had the most support behind it. So let's go ahead and answer this last question. So what should they make the new mascot? Explain. So the new mascot should be defenders. Okay, defenders. Because how many people wanted defenders? 310 voted for defenders. Did I spell that right? Yeah. Huh. And but for the Royals, it was only, what's 80 plus 150? 230 for the Royals. And 60 wanted thunder. So more than half, okay? Even if you add up Royals and Thunder together, that's 290. Still, the defenders come out on top. And so they're the defenders. All right, thank you for coming to my class. Try the homework. It's a worksheet on Canvas, and enjoy. Bye.